Good morning, everybody. Well, I'm still working on my research for the Global Compact on Immigration. It's a big video, so I'm working on it still. But in the meantime, people are tweeting out. SunLorrie is tweeting out, new forum poll states federal conservatives would win a majority government if election was held today. Tories 41%, Liberals 32%, NDP 15%, Greens 7%, and BQ 4%. Who's voting for these Liberals? Who in their right mind is looking at Trudeau and saying, oh yeah, we want 4 more years of that? Unbelievable. Here's a link to the forum poll. There's nothing new in there, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just including it so you can have a link to it if you want to see it. Faith Goldy's whole lawsuit was tossed out, and here's her talking about it after it was announced that it was tossed out. This is a specific part where she's talking about the judge and his decision to toss it out because it was his decision. So he was basically saying that not his problem. He doesn't care. So.
Says is that the Ontario Superior Court does have jurisdiction to hear our case, but the justice in question, quote, declines to hear it in this particular circumstance. He just declines. He just doesn't feel like it. I asked my legal counsel if it was fair to say that there was prejudice involved, and they said, indeed, it is fair to claim prejudice here. So
I'm just going to leave it there. It's a longer video, and Faith is angry, and rightly so. And I mean, not angry in a negative way, just upset that our democracy is so rigged. And I mean, do you guys remember when Doug Ford changed the number of seats in Toronto Council by saying it should line up with provincial MPs and federal MPs? Sorry, provincial MPPs and federal MPs. In order to get a council that's functional. And I mean, he was dragged through the mud, even though municipalities are creatures of the province has full jurisdiction and can do whatever they want with the municipalities. So, I mean, despite clear legal guidelines, the judge ruled against Ford's ability to do that. And then he said, well, I'm just going to do the notwithstanding clause and we'll do it anyway. But in a situation like this, I mean, I know it's a sticky situation for a premier to get into, but you've got media moguls who are conspiring to silence a candidate, and they're using racism as a shield to guard them against being called out on it. And they're just calling her racist. So is it okay to just be called racist and not even proven to be racist, just be called racist? Is that enough to remove you from the democratic process? Is that okay? Because that's what we're agreeing to here. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The CRTC has not called me back yet. So I thought this was funny. Faith tweeted this out as well. Quote, the Sun endorses making Toronto a sanctuary city. Murder rates higher than New York City. Illegal gun crime up almost 200% in 1 year. I don't think so. Sun columnists and readers endorse bringing back Tavis and carding, evacuating illegals. Total betrayal of their brand and base. Sad. And this is a link to the Toronto Sun's endorsement of Tory for mayor. I don't know who could possibly endorse John Tory for mayor. It would be like voting for Justin Trudeau for prime minister. Like, what has he done other than wreck the place? Really? Seriously. And same with Tory. Like, oh, no, there were only a couple children shot in schoolyard shootings. Yeah, and you know, just half of your shelter beds that are paid for by your taxes are covered by, are being taken up by people who have never paid taxes and who will never pay taxes because they're not citizens. And if they become citizens, well, most of them won't because 90% don't qualify. But hey, if we get a conservative government, maybe they'll just reclassify them to citizens so we don't have an illegal border crosser problem anymore. See, all those numbers just disappear. 30,000 people's nothing. We'll send them to, what, Nova Scotia? Get real. Ridiculous. Okay, so that's terrible. Awful. Here's a news article, and this is an example of the angles that news articles are taking. Quote, controversial Ontario candidate Faith Goldy's ad campaigns are being banned from airing, and some Canadians are seriously split over it. And then they talk about both Bell Media and Rogers Media have refused to air the political ad campaigns of mayor candidate Faith Goldy, who is a controversial candidate known for her extremist views and has been called a mix of Donald Trump and Tommy Lahren. So, I mean, it's just, they're trying to like, in what way is she like Donald Trump? She's a billionaire? She's, what? So I thought that was kind of funny. And I think it's interesting that John Tory is a candidate for mayor, is a sitting mayor, and he is able to use his mayoral connections to lobby the government. This was from 2016, February 5th, 2016. And quote, unbeknownst to the speaker, Mayor John Tory had indeed taken a position. In his official capacity, he had written a letter to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's cabinet in support of Bell's petition to have the CRTC's decision overturned. So the CRTC made a call, and this is about faster internet being allowed in Toronto. By the whole thing was the CRTC said that the media giants Bell and Rogers have to allow smaller companies to have access to their internet so they can resell it at their rates, right? And Tory was saying, yeah, but not the faster tiers. Not 25 megs and 50 megs and stuff. We should keep that for ourselves. And so he used his position as mayor to rate Trudeau's cabinet in position of Bell's position. You see how that works? Them being the Rogers Control Trust, and Rogers Control Trust is the group that runs Rogers, and John Tory's on that trust. I have another video about that if you're interested. So they partnered with Bell to buy the Maple Leafs and a whole bunch, like MLSE, right? The Maple Leafs Sports and Entertainment. That's all owned by Bell and Rogers collectively together. So Tory writing these letters like this, I mean, what's to stop him from calling them up and saying, hey guys, you know that candidate? She's giving me a bit of a hard time. Let's nobody mention her and let all your newspapers know. So if it's interesting that John Tory himself is protected as mayor of Toronto from these conflict of interest. Do you trust John Tory that much? Do you? I don't. I don't at all. And not because I know him and not because he's of his record. His record is atrocious. That's clear to anybody looking. But he looks shifty. That smile doesn't look like it touches his eyes, you know? He looks, I don't know. He looks like he's an empty suit. He's going to do what his masters say. He doesn't have a personality of his own, right? In 2003, he was against illegals, and he said they undermined the Canadian system. And now that's scrubbed from the website. I have all sorts of videos about John Tory and his inconsistencies. But the question isn't really mine to answer because, I mean, while I don't trust him, or Rogers or Bell, I don't live in Toronto, so I can't vote for Miss Goldy or not vote for him. But the question is, if you live in Toronto, do you trust him? Trust him about as much as you trust the media. So that's your potentially next mayor. And he's got enough pull to get the Toronto Sun to endorse him. Is that who you want in the mayor office? Man. It's like Back to the Future Part 2, where the bad guys get in power. But the bad guys in this one don't look like bad guys. They look like guys in suits, and they say the words that people want to hear. But then when they get into office, they let illegals in, and they let children get shot at playgrounds, and they sell you out to the government using their position of power that you gave them to say, no, not in Toronto. We don't need that here because my buddies at Bell are going to make less money. Time for a change, Toronto. Time for a change. Thanks for watching. Check out faithfortoronto.ca. Check out peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Check out canadapoly.com, where you can find me, just in case YouTube goes down again, or you want to subscribe to my podcast, and you'll get your daily dose of Canadian politics right to your phone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And, I'll see you this afternoon, where I hope we'll talk about the Global Compact on Migration.